Namaskar, welcome to another edition of Navavimash podcast. So we are back today to discuss a brand new book. This book is Amit Shah and the March of BJP, written by Mr. Anirban Ganguly, and the second author is Shivanand Divedi. So we're going to discuss this book today, and for the audience who are joining, we give a minute or two for audience to join, and then we'll start our podcast. In the meantime, you can also see we have this book also. We had read a part of this book as part of our study and work with me stream. So we're going to also do that as well. Maybe tomorrow or day after, we're going to read the full book altogether. And also for the audience, tomorrow we are going to have two streams, Bengali streams, podcasts, where at 8 p.m. we'll have with us Mr. Deep Haldar, the author of this book, Inshallah Bangladesh, the story of unfinished revolution. So we will have the author with us, and also we will have another guest from Bangladesh, a human rights activist. So they will come to discuss the coming elections in Bangladesh and how things are in Bangladesh. We will discuss that as well. And around 9:30 p.m. again, we will have a second stream for tomorrow, where we will talk about the minorities in Bangladesh and how it affects, especially Hindus minority in Bangladesh, and how that affects the Hindus of West Bengal and India, and how we are going to work with them. So we will have a Hindu resistance podcast as well at 9:30 p.m. So tomorrow we have two podcasts scheduled. We'll get the notification shortly. Now let's start our discussion. Okay, do share your comments, questions you have regarding this, and also let me know the audio is okay or not, in case there's some audio issues there. And we're going to read. So as all people know that Mr. Amit Shah has arrived in West Bengal today or tonight. So he's going to have few meetings. So as we all know, Mr. Amit Shah is known as the Chanakya of Bharatiya Janata Party, and how his career has evolved over the years. Okay. So we're going to discuss, read a part of the book, and also discuss how his career started. So today we're going to read and discuss his early career as a Swayamsevak in RSS, and how from RSS he became the chief political whip of Bharatiya Janata Party, and doing a fabulous job as a home minister for last two consecutive terms he has as a home minister. And let's see how it looks like. So welcome everyone to the stream, to this book reading and discussion stream. Do like the video, do share the videos, do help us to grow by subscribing to the channel itself, so that we can have more audience join, and we will be able to reach more people. With that in done, let's go ahead and start to read the book. And if you have any questions regarding the book or the content itself or Mr. Amit Shah, so you can ask in the chat. We'll try to answer the questions. But before proceeding, let's give you the link of the book where you can get this book. Yeah, okay. You have the link here. Let's see. So this is published. Okay, this is interesting. This is published by Bloomsbury, and let me share the link as well for the audience. So we always support small booksellers and small platforms. So I'm going to share the link of Garuda, where you can buy this book. So this is the link where you can get the book, and also share also the details on the screen itself. Yeah, so this is the book that I'm going to really read today. Amit Shah and the March of BJP, written by Mr. Onivar Ganguly and Shivanand Dwivedi. And it has bit of details what the book is all about. The book primarily focuses on his early career and also the resurgence of BJP post 2014 elections and how this has transformed his career as a politician. We all know that he was working with Mr. Narendra Modi while being in Gujarat, and that also has a lot of politics, a lot of stories behind that as well. Okay, so let's start. So, do let me know. Do you want me to read the forward, or do you want me to go to chapter? So, this is the chapter. Looks like. Let me just move this. So, these are the chapters we have in the book, and I'm going to skip the introduction because of most people know about Amit Shah as the Home Minister. So, I'm going to, but I think intro is required. Let's start with the introductions. So, introduction. A renewed interest in the Bharatiya Janata Party was perceived to be growing around 2013. So we are talking about the when BJP was surging in popularity, and the way it won the elections, the national elections in 2014. So all people know about it. There are lots of books are written on this. So we are starting from this. A renewed interest in the Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) was perceived to be growing around the June 2013 when Narendra Modi was the chief declared the chief of the party's election campaign for 2014 general elections. Oh, that's interesting. In the days and months to come, Modi would weave an impressive and dominant narrative that would give rise to a strong and compelling emotion for change. This would eventually grow into a massive wave that would sweep away the Congress dispensation, which had ruled India for a decade from 2004 to 2014. Okay, just one clarification. Congress did not rule. Congress was in coalition with many other parties, the so-called secular parties, and they were ruling as coalition. So it wasn't Congress which won the majority and they were ruling. Yeah, Congress was the largest party, the way we see now, correct, in the NDA 3.0, 3.0, the 2014 elections, where 2024 elections, the national elections, where BJP did not win a majority, but they are the largest party. So Congress was the largest party at that time, but there were other coalition partners who were actually made an alliance with Congress to actually run the government. Since May 2014, worldwide interest both in the Narendra Modi led government and the party BJP has kept growing. Interestingly, as we have discussed in the pages of this book, both the government led by by Modi and the party led by Amit Shah have continued in their respective trajectories of activities, innovation, performance, and results, and yet have been linked and coordinated in their functioning. The party that had systematically initiated, supported, sustained, and upheld the electoral struggle and narrative for India in 2014 did not recede into complacency after a massive victory. Interestingly and fascinatingly, the BJP, after its victory in 2014, launched itself on a mission of expansion, uh, of restructuring and widening its activities and outreach. It directed itself into sustained creative political programs that eventually saw it by 2018 forming governments or being part of governments in 21 Indian states that covers 70% of India's population. Its political narrative became the dominant one, with its political presence becoming pan India. This phase also saw BJP decisively break out of the false stereotype of being a Hindu heartland party, a stereotype that was imposed on it to suit a certain political angle and motive. This phase had also been a very creative one for the BJP, seeing as seeing as the party achieved many landmarks, some of which actually redefined the manner and dimension of the functioning of political parties while restating their roles and responsibilities vis-a-vis society and polity. Despite the near constant pressure and exigencies of a continuous cycle of elections, the BJP has, from 2014 to the present, displayed a a distinct effort at evolving beyond the matrix and framework of being a mere electoral machine or a political entity which comes to life and takes no action only when elections are round the corner. In this, it has left far behind. It has in this it has left far behind other political formations which are either governed, family governed, dynasty driven, and election oriented entities with no political creativity and scope for expansion, such as the Rahul Gandhi led Congress, or those which are increasingly faced with a shrinking membership base, ideological confusion, and depleting electoral footprints like the communist parties in India today. Some of the milestones that have been reached in this phase have had a great impact on the party as a whole. The BJP's emergence as the largest political party in the world through a unique membership drive, creative and imaginative countrywide training initiative for workers of the party, the restructuring of the party and imparting it a modernized work ambience and support system, its ideological self-renewal, its nationwide outreach, its various dimensions and layers, its innovative and effective booth outreach program, enrolling young and dynamic workers from all strata of society and from across the country as okay, Vistarks. Okay, yeah, this is a Hindi word. Vistaraks. Okay, Vistaraks. The successful celebration of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay centenary through a series of innovative political initiatives, the streamlining of parties functioning into departments and projects, the massive victory of the massive victory in Uttar Pradesh in March 2017, the inroads and victories across entire stretch of India's northeast, the resounding victory in Tripura, and the cycle of electoral victories in general across the country, the historic yatra against political violence in Kerala, the yatra for the tricolor, and in remembrance of freedom fighters are some of the many milestones that have defined BJP's journey from summer of 2014. Do remember that when we are talking about all these achievements which BJP as a party has achieved, Mr. Amit Shah has played a pivotal role all these things, and we're going to discuss them in coming chapters as well. So now we are going to uh, go a little bit deeper into let me see. We have Yeah, we are going to now read the chapter one. The chapter one is from lamp to lotus, and here we are going to get to understand the early phase of the political life or non-political life of Mr. Amit Shah. So, how Amit Shah has played a pivotal role in the march of BJP. So, chapter one, from lamp to the lotus. The symbolism, the symbolism of the mandate of 2014. The month of May 2014 was undeniably a historic moment in the history of post-independent India. Why? That's a very good question that we need to ask. After what seemed to be an unending hiatus, a single political party received a resounding, very, very interesting thing. we are talking about. After what after what seemed to be an unending hiatus, it means break. So I think post Rajiv Gandhi, where he won the majority. After that, we have India has seen coalition government since 1980s. So after 1980s, there was no government which had a clear majority in the parliament to run the government at the center. So 2014, yes, Mota Bhai or Bada Bhai. So Mota means Bada. So 2014 was a landmark year in the political sense because we had a party, a single party, won a clear majority, okay, on its own after 1980s, and that's why it's a landmark year and a political event in the political history of India. Unending hiatus, a single political party received a resounding mandate in the general elections. It was a reassuring mandate after a period of prolonged indecisiveness and policy paralysis. So, when we use the term prolonged indecisiveness and political policy paralysis, so 2004 to 2013, where we have seen the UPA governments come into play, being governed as West Congress was the primary party, and we had others who joined as a UPA partners, and we have seen a lot of scams, a lot. So in 2013, we have to remember in 2013, Bharat, that is India, was named as the fragile five economies. So the impact of UPA government, UPA 1 and UPA 2, was that Bharat's economy was tagged as the fragile five in terms of its economic output, economic power, and sustainability of its economy. So we have to remember that when Narendra Modi came into power in 2014, Bharat's economy was devastated in many ways due to a lot of policy not being implemented. Bad policies are being implemented, where we have seen the Chinese imports had destroyed the local economies, local manufacturing. So a lot the things were bad and worse when the Modi government came into power. So when the author says about the prolonged indecisiveness in terms of taking actions and policy actions, and also policy paralysis in terms of economy, defense, in terms of administration, and it signaled the arrival it signaled the arrival of an era of stability in terms of governance and politics. The BJP led The BJP, led by Narendra Modi, bagged 282 seats, which gave it a decisive edge. So, in Indian Parliament, right now, if a party wins 272 seats, they get a clear majority. So they can form the government on their own without help of any other partners. So they won 10 more seats than required to actually run the government at the center, which gave a decisive edge. Along with its coalition partners of the National Democratic Alliance (NDA), it could form a stable coalition and break the vicious cycle of unstable coalition mandates. There was a grueling election campaign in which the dominant theme veered around issues of livelihood, development, and governance. With Narendra Modi emerging as the symbol of a new alternative, some saw him as a strong leader who would undo the policy paralysis. We're going to see this word used many times, the policy paralysis, because people who go back to the news clippings, newspapers, interviews, there was a palpable undercurrent of UPA 2, very specific to UPA 2, was not able to take decisions which actually cost Bharat dearly in long term. And it made the economy of Bharat the part of fragile five, very fragile and very weak on its fundamentals. So a strong leader who would undo the policy paralysis and the sense of drift India had experienced in the final 3 years of Manmohan Singh led United Progressive Alliance. Large numbers who wanted purposeful governance of the type that Modi had provided in Gujarat over past 13 years as chief minister of the state from 2001 to 2014 made this mandate possible and converted it into a turning point in India's recent electoral history. An entire generation had grown up without the memory of a full majority government, a decisive leader, and a defined program of governance for the country. The story the story of Narendra Modi's rise to the top leadership of his party, his very modest and challenging background, his journey from the margins to the center, and his capacity of articulating an alternate narrative of India in new century made an impact across vast swaths of India, especially among the youth. As early as 2011, a certain fatigue and disillusionment with the Congress led UPA 2 dispensation had started setting in. Mega corruption scandals, indecisiveness, a lack of political will when it came to promoting and or protecting India's interest and India's receding global footprints were giving rise to disenchantment among people. Along with this was also a gradually emerging support in favor of Modi and change. Observers of Indian politics have noticed this gradual shift and argued for the need to replicate Gujarat development model. Now, interesting. Not too many people nowadays do not not know about the Gujarat development model. But 2001 to 2013, when Mr. Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat, and over the time, from that time onwards, the Gujarat development model was a kind of a talked about concept where he had delivered growth, he had built infrastructure, he had delivered development governance across dimensions of human society. The Gujarat development model in other parts of the country and the need for youth power to ensure that this could be made possible and Modi be positioned for greater pan India role. The mandate of 2014, when it came, symbolized people's expression of their volcanic capacity to remake the political landscape of India. In a sense, May 2014 was a liberating moment for India's polity, which had faced chronic instability for a while, either because of coalitions and fractured mandates or because of weak political leadership and an unclear demarcation between political power and actual responsibility. Narendra Modi's mandate was more than a popular mandate. It was a cry from India's heart, a call for profound change and decisive governance in a country and among a people tired of excuses and e- exasperated by the old ways. The people and the youth wanted change. A widely read Western paper went so far as to argue in its editorial that the electoral verdict of 2014 may well go down in history as the day when Britain finally left India. Now, a lot of people actually think that the real independence, the political independence, came when Mr. Modi came into power in 2014 as a real Independence Day for India because from 1947 onwards, we have seen that the bureaucracy which was governing the British India remained at the helm. The politicians and politics was also governed by the so-called Brown Sahibs, who were more British than Indian in their manner, in their governance, and the bureaucracy was also kind of same. So the real change, which politically we could say very significant, only happened in 2014. History as the day when Britain finally left India. It observed Narendra Modi's victory in the elections marks the end of a long era in which the structures of power did not differ greatly from those through which Britain ruled the subcontinent. India under the Congress party was in many ways a continuation, very important lines we have to remember. India under the Congress party was in many ways a continuation of the British Raj by other beings, ruled by Brown Sahibs, who were mentally British in their governance, in their politics. The editorial spoke of the voice of the people asserting itself, a people who had a vote but often lacked voice. Modi was seen as an endorsement of that voice. He was a new kind of leader from the lower castes, not a natural English speaker without any truck, with old power structures and elite. But more importantly, the verdict was seen as the voice of the people announcing a new kind of India. In, an, in the old India, the poor were there to be helped when the elite remembered to do so, or when they need to seek or, in effect, buy votes. We have to remember the slogan of Mr. Indira Gandhi, Garibi Hatao, but that was never realized because they had no intention of removing or helping poor, because that would mean that there won't be any people to vote for them. So they wanted to poor to remain poor so that they can vote for them. And the opposite was done by the BJP government, which started a slew of schemes, economic development, governance, building infrastructure to give the poor its due in so many ways. The the middling classes, interesting word choice. The middling classes were taken for granted and sometimes snubbed. This new kind of India was not interested in handouts and refuses to be snubbed. It wanted it wanted the obstacles. It wanted the obstacles it sees as impending, its aspirations swept away. And it has quite clearly discarded the difference it difference it displayed towards the Gandhi family and towards the anglicized elites, the Lutyens elite. The struggle and saga, formation of Janasangh. So we are going to now, because Mr. Amit Shah and the history of BJP is also interrelated. So now we're going to read about Janasangh. Janasangh was the party which was formed in the 1950s. So let's read that. I need to check the dates, but anyway. The struggle and saga, formation of Janasangh. May 2014 was the fifth May 2014 was the fifth and the most decisive high water mark of a long and arduous political saga and struggle that began in October 1951 with the formation of Bharatiya Janasangh (BJS) having resigned from Jawaharlal Nehru's cabinet, the first cabinet of Free India, in which he was the Minister of Industry and Supply, Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee. By the way, Mr. Dr. Shyamprasad Mukherjee was the one of the most important players to make West Bengal part of Bharat and India. Dr. Shyamprasad Mukherjee, pioneering educationist, erstwhile leading light of the Hindu Mahasabha, a member of the Constituent Assembly and one of the dominant voices of Bengal politics, worked to form a political alternative to Nehruvian behemoth. Dissatisfied with the overall national direction under the Nehruvian dispensation, Mukherjee formed Janasangh with Swayamsevaks of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Now, interesting thing to understand that in 1950s, you had Hindu Mahasabha as a political party, and you also had Congress or National Congress, but there was no Janasangh party. There were some political differences between Hindu Mahasabha leadership because actually Mr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee was also part of Hindu Mahasabha. Even Mr. Savarkar was also sympathetic to Hindu Mahasabha. So, in terms of political ideologies, they were actually intermingled with each other. So, uh, but you also had RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which was a kind of a cultural organization, not a political organization. So, and they still are a non-political cultural organization working for the upliftment of people from all sections of life, doing social work, education, and also culture, a lot of cultural things as well. So Mukherjee formed Janasangh with the Swayamsevaks. So RSS people who were there working for RSS, they left RSS and created a political party. So now people who leave RSS, they are not part of RSS anymore. So they have to break their bonds with RSS to be a political, because being with RSS, you cannot be a political person or do any political activities as such. Of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which under the leadership of Guruji M.S. Golwalkar directed some of its most energetic and young pracharaks, workers who had dedicated themselves full time for the RSS work, for assisting Mukherjee as the proposed party's first administrator and managers. Through his interactions with Guruji Golwalkar and the RSS organization, Mukherjee was convinced that RSS could be anything but reactionary. It already had an extensive network of branches and a cadre of tried and selfless workers. It was not that Mukherjee was not exposed to the RSS. In 1940, in 1940, he was he had met the RSS founder Dr. Keshav Baliram Hedgewar. Guruji Golwalkar was present during that meeting. It was an interesting encounter in which Mr. Mukherjee and Dr. Hedgewar discussed the plight of Hindus in then Muslim League ruled Bengal. A lot of people might be asking, okay, what's in 2025? We are also talking about the same thing, the plight of Hindus in now East Pakistan or Bangladesh, whichever you want to call them. He had met the RSS founder, Dr. Keshav Baliram Hedgewar. Guruji Golwalkar was present during the meeting. It was an interesting encounter in which hmm, Mukherjee and Dr. Hedgewar discussed the plight of Hindus in then Muslim League ruled Bengal, the need to organize them, and the RSS and the politics and much more. It is said that during the course of the discussion, Dr. Mukherjee suggested to Dr. Hedgewar that the Sangh must take part in politics, to which Hedgewar is said to have replied that Sangh was not interested in day-to-day politics, but with the support and blessings of enlightened people like Mukherjee, the beneficial the beneficial Sangh activities. Okay. Enlightened people like Mr. Mukherjee, the beneficial Sangh activities in Bengal will grow fast, and the protection and help needed by Hindus will thus become automatically available. By connecting with Guruji Golwalkar again, Mukherjee was taking forward a dialogue that had been initiated in the past. He was, in a sense, renewing his understanding and association with the RSS. Having met Guruji Golwalkar, Mukherjee felt that any political organization supported by and enjoying the confidence of the RSS could surely succeed in mobilizing and consolidating the non-Congress, non-communist nationalist public opinion. In few early months, After the formation of Janasangh on 21st October 1951, Mukherjee admirably withstood and countered the Nehruvian hegemony, which was out to crush the newly born party. To Nehru's resolve, to Nehru's resolve that he would crush the Janasangh, Mukherjee famously declared that he would instead crush his crushing mentality. The Janasangh symbol was the earthen lamp. So that's what the chapter's name is, from the lamp to the lotus. So you had lamp as the political symbol, the party symbol. From lamp, when the Janasangh was disbanded and Bharatiya Janata Party was born in 1980s, so the lamp became the lotus. So that's why the chapter's name is the lamp to the lotus. The Janasangh symbol was earthen lamp, a symbol that reflected Indian cultural psyche. Speaking to new party's symbol, Mukherjee hoped that the party whose symbol in the forthcoming election is humble earthen Pradeep. So in Bengali, the lamp is called Pradeep, would try to carry this light of hope and unity, faith and courage to dispel the darkness that surrounds the country. In the first general elections in 1951-52, the fledgling Janasangh could win only 3 seats, but it had at least succeeded in making its existence known everywhere. With its name and ideology reaching the remotest villages, especially in the areas in which it had contested elections, it had secured a foothold in the country and also in the hearts of the people. Jana Shakti versus Raj Shakti, Deen Dayal Upadhyay and Janasangh's growth. To many, Deen Dayal Upadhyay is one of the ideologues of BJP and also of Sangh itself. Mukherjee's early death in 1953 in detention in Kashmir under mysterious circumstances brought about an existential crisis for the fledgling Janasangh. It not only caused dismay throughout India, but it deprived the party of its only parliamentarian of national standing and its one secure link with powerful networks of highly placed professionals and political bodies around which an anti-Congress front might have constructed. So it was a very unfortunate uh, incident. A lot of people say that Mr. Mukherjee was murdered, killed. There are lots of theories on this, but it was a body blow to the fledgling Janasangh. And if he was alive, we could have seen a different kind of polity coming to life in 1960s and 70s. The Janasangh eventually survived the ordeal and began growing in political strength and spread under the leadership of Mr. Mukherjee's youthful and far-seeing understudy Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who, through long years, steered the Janasangh ship in the often rough and choppy waters of the Nehruvian era during the immediate phase after Nehru's passing. The dexterous and deft political organizer, a fundamental political thinker and a theoretician, and an earthly political tactician, Upadhyay combined in him both idealism and pragmatism, and saw it to that Janasangh from 1953 to 1968, at the time of his untimely assassination, had clearly emerged as a significant contender in Indian politics. It displayed a remarkable upward growth over the years. As one of the early and perhaps only sympathetic biographer of the Janasangh, the American political historian Craig Baxter noted, the Bharatiya Janasangh enjoys a unique position among the national political parties of India. It is the only party that has increased its presence percentage of popular vote share of parliamentary and assembly seats in each successive election from 1952 through 1967. That's very interesting and a very compelling thing, that why now when we see today BJP as uh, being in power and center for last 10 plus years, they have governments in across states. There are only few states like I think Himachal, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir, where the non-BJP government is there. But in other states, we see BJP ruling as the primary party or as part of coalition, like in Bihar. In Bihar, BJP is coalition with Mr. Nitish Kumar. In fact, the formation of Janasangh in 1951 can be termed as the first watershed of an alternate political narrative in independent India. Among the political parties in India post independence, the Janasangh and later the BJP went on to eventually emerge as the most stable political formation. Ironically, it was Madhu, uh, Madhu Limai, one of the leading Indian socialists of the 1970s, who was instrumental in the collapse of the Janata Party experiment, who spoke of being amazed by the capacity of the JS-BJP, later the BJP, Janasangh BJP, later BJP, to hold together. It is alone among India's political parties written by Madhu Limai, which has not suffered a division. Very interesting part. We have seen that political parties being divided. Even not too many people know about it, but the Congress party was divided in 1970s when Indira Gandhi formed Indira Congress. And we also see that in the states of India, like in West Bengal, the Congress party was not the Congress party of the center, it was Bangla Congress. So we have seen divisions in the political landscape, where political parties get divided into the classic cases of Janta Dal. Okay. So in the after the emergency, when Janta Party was there, so where as a JP Jayaprakash Narayan, who was the movement who headed the movement of Janta Party or Janta Dal. So after that we had a Janta Dal, but then after the emergency was revoked, we have seen erosion in Janta Dal, where you have in Orissa you had uh, I think Biju Janata Dal was there. Then you had Lalu Yadav had his own party. Then you have Mr. Mulayam Singh from his own party. So they all, Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, and there are other people as well. They are all part of the Janata Dal. But after that, it fractured. And here, the Madhu Limai, the political scientist, is saying that one of the leading political socialists of the 1970s, who was instrumental in the collapse of the Janata Party experiment, which was formed after the emergency was revoked. The Janata Party was an experiment where people from all across the spectrum of Indian society, from Orissa to Bihar to UP, other people came and formed a government called Janata Party, being amazed by the capacity of the Janasangh BJP, later BJP, to hold together. So after the emergency happened and Janata Party came into existence, it fractured quickly. But the only party which did not fracture in so many ways was BJP. It is alone among India's political parties written by Madhu Limai which has not suffered a division. Every other political party, like Janata Dal, suffered a split. Some parties even repeated splits. Upadhyay's projection of the fledgling Jana Sangh was that it reflected Jana Shakti as against Congress steamroller, which was representative of Raj Shakti. This caught the imagination of a section that had become increasingly disillusioned with Congress, reaching out to the last citizen, formulating a political philosophy. In terms of the articulation of a program and ideology for the Janasangh, in 1965 saw a second watershed In that year, Upadhyay formulated his political philosophy of integral humanism. It was a political philosophy that was to become the foundation of all ideological positions that the Janasangh would henceforth articulate and would also continue to guide and later influence the ideological direction of the Janasangh's political successor, the BJP. While Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee founded the party, it was Upadhyay who laid its political foundation in terms of organization and ideology. One of the main pillars of this political philosophy was the vision of Antodaya. I think I also have a book on Antodaya, which we will cover someday. Antodaya, the empowerment, the rise and the inclusion of marginal citizens in the growth story of the nation. In his approach to governance, Upadhyay argued for the need to evolve systems and programs that would ensure such an inclusion and empowerment. In his first presidential address in 1980, after the formation of BJP, Atal Bihari Vajpayee reiterated that political philosophy when he spoke of the need to correct distortions of inequality and regard the individual, particularly the weakest individual, as the focal point of our development endeavors. Narendra Modi bases his entire governance philosophy on Antyodaya. While his party today has structured its program and outreach basing itself on that political foundations. Fragmentation of fragmentation of the Congress Juggernaut and SVD experiment 1967. The third political watershed was reached in 1967 when the Congress pan-Indian political domination was demolished and Janasangh became part number of coalition ministries that were formed in the states, comprising of actually I did not know about these things as well, so it's new to me. The fragmentation of the Congress, Juggernaut, and SDD experiment 1967, comprising of Praja Socialist Party (PSP), Samyukt Socialist Party (SSP), and Bharatiya Kranti Dal (BKD). This formation, known as the Samyukt Vidhayak Dal (SVD), on the floor of the state assemblies in which the Congress was ousted. So interesting. So BJP was working with these parties who are socialist in nature. Let's see. Hmm. First time in providing a governance alternative to Congress. The year 1967 was thus an important milestone year for the Janasangh, primarily because of Deen Dayal Upadhyay's political pragmatism. The Congress juggernaut could be challenged, slowed, and, in some states, halted. That year, the Congress lost power in 6 days, as Baxter put it. So now we are reading from the quote from Mr. Baxter's book. In 1967, for the fourth time in India's history, the opposition went to the polls with the high and previously dashed hopes of displacing the Congress party. This time, however, there was a different result for the opposition. Opposition did reduce the Congress to a minority in several states and mm, hopes of displacing the Congress party. This time, however, there was a different result for the opposition. Did reduce the Congress to a minority in several states and, almost without exception, in other states sharply reduced Congress majorities. In the Lok Sabha, the result was headlined by one paper as Congress struggles to a majority. In the Lok Sabha, the Janasangh won 35 seats and was the largest non-Congress formation after Swatantra Party, which had bagged 44 seats. Upadhyay's party emerged as the second party in India in terms of votes received and assembly seats won. While the Congress was okay, but remember that in from 1952 onwards, I think till emergency was imposed by Indira Gandhi in 1975, the the assembly elections and also the elections for the center, the national elections, both were happened at the same time. So nowadays we see, correct, we have a national election and we also have assembly election. Like Bengal will go for voting in May of 2026, but the national elections for the center will be held in 2029. But pre 1975, both the assembly elections, voting for the assembly seats in the states and voting for the parliamentary seats in the center, happened at the same time. So remember that part. So there were no separate assembly and parliamentary elections. In the Lok Sabha, the Janasangh won 35 seats and was the largest non-Congress formation after Swatantra Party, which had backed 44 seats. Upadhyay's party emerged as the second party in India in terms of votes received and assembly seats won. While Congress was in a state of shock, the reinforced Janasangh delegation in the Lok Sabha became a major force in the opposition. While other all India parties had either gone down or at best retained their original positions, the Janasangh made impressive progress both in votes and in seats. Moreover, it had made all these gains without entering into an alliance with any other party. This the party saw as an index of the confidence and support that the people have for it. In Delhi, for example, the party had secured 6 out of 7 Lok Sabha seats. Okay, that's interesting. In assembly elections that followed, it won 78 seats in Madhya Pradesh and in UP 98 seats and in Rajasthan 22 assembly seats. This infused a new enthusiasm and energy in the rank and file. However, assembly verdicts throughout 1965 brought to it brought to the fore the need for coalition formations. The year also saw a major shift in the political attitude of the Janasangh. The party saw the necessity and compulsion of forming or being part of coalitions. The need to keep Congress out of power in the state made these smaller political formations realize the need to come together by trying to form governments. The same thing we are seeing now in center, where you have Indie Alliance. Now, Indie Alliance is what? It is a loose alliance of all regional parties and national party. Congress, although Congress cannot be called a national party anymore because the number of seats they have is minuscule compared to what they were once at a time. But we have seen, correct, the same thing is being repeated again, where now BJP is the behemoth which has formed government and center for 3 consecutive terms. They have governments in Madhya Pradesh, UP, Uttarakhand, and many other states, and they also are ruling as part of coalitions also in the northeastern states in Assam, Mizoram, and many other places, Nagaland as well. So now Congress is now marginalized as a regional party in real terms. So now we are seeing that. So same thing happened in 1967 when the smaller parties got together to actually unseat the behemoth of Congress. The Central Working Committee of the Janasangh met in Delhi in March 1967 and noted how the Congress had received a big shock because it failed to secure a majority in 8 states as well in Delhi, and how at the center too its majority has a very narrow margin. It argued that the election results indicated that the Indian voter has recognized his might, his self confidence has been roused. The Janasangh began presenting itself as an alternative with a positive basis to the Congress and also debated the need to be governed, need to be part of coalitions in order to prevent Congress from forming governments in the states. It had become impossible in many states to form a government unless all non-Congress parties came together, and to let Congress form a government in such states would not only amount to flouting people's feelings but would also strike at the self-confidence. The Janasangh thus favored the inclusion of its members of Legislative Assembly (MLAs) in non-Congress ministries and directed that these members will remain in ministry so long as they can effectively serve the people on the basis of the principles and programs of the Janasangh. This was, in effect, the first experience of the party in government participation and in the holding of power offices. Presenting his general secretary's report and making an appraisal of the election that year, Upadhyay reminded the rank and file that our past achievement is remarkable, but what remains to be done is considerable. Let us all march and march until the goal is achieved. Challenging years, Upadhyay's death, emergency, resistance to dictatorship. The year 1968 saw the sudden death of Deen Dayal Upadhyay within 5 months of his being elected as president of Janasangh. Together, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and L.K. Advani took up the reign of the party. Both these leaders had made their mark on the party's national arena and in partnership with a closely knit and cohesive group of seasoned organizational, political leaders and workers such as Nanaji Deshmukh, Bhai Mahavir, the first General Secretary of Janasangh from 1951 to 52, K.R. Malkani, Kedarnath Sahani, P. Parameshwaram, Jagadish Prasad Mathur, Jagannath Rao Joshi, Karnataka Kesari, Sundar Singh Bhandari, Vijay Kumar Malhotra, Rajmata Vijay Raje Sindhia, Kushabhau Thakre, and others such as Balraj Madhok, ensured that the party tided over his second major crisis of the leadership. The period between 1975 and 77 was a debilitating one when Indira Gandhi imposed emergency, curtailed freedom and fundamental rights, imprisoned opposition leaders and workers, and turned the country into a massive prison. It also saw the Janasangh and the RSS workers and leaders put up a spirited resistance in support of the restoration of democracy and against Indira's lead against Indira's dictatorship. The rank and file of the party, led by L.K. Advani, was thrown into prison across the country. However, the unrelenting resistance to emergency eventually compelled Indira Gandhi to announce fresh elections in which she faced a complete rout. The BJS, Bharatiya Janasangh, was at the forefront of the movement for resisting emergency and suspension of democracy. The Janata Party interlude, merger and crisis. This is very interesting political moment for BJP and also for the Indian politics. And this merger and crisis has actually what we see today, the politics. The birth was in this time in 1977. The fourth watershed was reached in 1977 when the BJS merged itself with other groups to form Janata Party that came to power following Indira Gandhi's defeat. The Janasangh played a crucial role in forming the coalition and in presenting credible alternative to the people. The Janasangh leadership enthusiastically responded to the moves and suggestions of creating an opposition unity. Okay, hold on. The Janasangh leadership enthusiastically responded to the moves and suggestions of creating an opposition unity. L.K. Advani, writing on the coming together of the four non-communist opposition parties, had observed that the struggle waged by the people against authoritarian authoritarianism during the last 19 months has imported a new dimension to India's body politics. The Janata Party formation propped itself on the people's voice, which had expressed itself against Indira's draconian and anti-democratic rule. However, the Janata Party government soon crumbled due to contradictions and conflicting personal ambitions of some of its leaders, squandering the historic mandate given to it. But it did represent for a while. Hmm. Yeah, we're going to also finish in about half an hour. So we're going to continue tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we have very two important podcasts coming in. Thank you for listening. Squandering the historic mandate given to it, but it did represent for a while the possibilities of non-Congress alternative before the country. That's why it's called a watershed movement. For the first time after independence from the British, Bharat has not seen a non-Congress government. After emergency was lifted in 1977, for the first time, a non-Congress government was in power at the center. That's the most important and watershed moment in political history of India. Charting out a new course, formation of BJP between 1980 and 85. A crisis appeared in April 1980 when the National Executive of Janata Party adopted a resolution prohibiting members of RSS from continuing in the Janata Party. The fear entertained, the fear entertained by a group led by Chandrasekhar, then president of the party, and the other socialists within the Janata Party, was that after the split of the party following the secession of Charan Singh fraction, the erstwhile Janasangh would capture the party on account of its mass base and large army of dedicated workers. Instead of trying to stay politically afloat and relevant, the Janata Party had a section of its leaders who were more concerned with trying to retain control of the party that was already imploding. The members of the Janasangh objected to this condition. The coalition experience had been that even though it was the single largest constituent of Janata Party and had a large popular base in the country. The Janasangh had never negotiated for a proportionate share either in Janata government or in the Janata Party. Its members pointed out that the party had always displayed a spirit of sacrifice and accommodation. Janasangh leaders argued that the membership issue was settled when the Janata Party was formed and the merger of the constituents which formed the Janata Party had taken place. They saw in this condition being raised now as an ulterior reason to control the party. Moreover, the RSS, they pointed out, had not interfered in any manner either in the functioning of the party or government. The BJS did not compromise on its link, and it was the relationship with the RSS, the socialists, who played the principal role in breaking apart Janata Party. At a conference of the Janasangh workers held at the Kotla ground in Delhi on 6th April 1980, it was decided to part company with the Janata Party. Jayaprakash Narayan, JP, known as JP, under the whose inspiration the Janata Party had been formed, had died in 1979. Disillusioned with his experiment, the mood among members of the erstwhile Janasangh was one of unhappiness at having to dissociate themselves from the JP's experiment. The Bharatiya Janata Party took birth on that day, as Rajmata Vijayaraje Scindia recalled that moment when Atal Bihari Vajpayee appealed to the workers, "Come, light the lamp again." The workers were imbued with new energy and excitement. A new party was being formed on the old foundation. It was entrusted with the responsibility to name the party. I announced the name of Bharatiya Janata Party amid claps. The sky reverbed, the sky reverberated with joyous exclamations. The formation of the BJP thus was the fifth and principal watershed in this long political movement. The party had no organization of its own, but lakhs of erstwhile Janasangh workers were there and had to start from scratch. However, it already had a phalanx of able leaders with a national profile who could steer a new ship. Its disciplined, dedicated, and hard-working cadre of workers that it had inherited from Janasangh was its asset. Vajpayee became the president of the newly formed BJP while Advani became its general secretary. संगठन संघर्ष okay संगठन संघर्ष and samarchana early years. A plenary was convened in Mumbai towards the end of December in 1980 between 28th to 30th, and the interim period between April and December was utilized to mobilize cadres, enroll members, and set up units across the country. It is estimated it is estimated that about 25 lakh members were enrolled in the BJP during this period. The first plenary session of the BJP was thus held at Mumbai. The venue was symbolically named Samata Nagar. The editorial of a paper covering the event observed that the name was presumably intended to indicate the political economic direction which wished to give the leaders wished to give to the BJP. It also indicated the party's political philosophy of promising to work for the creation of a society where every citizen, irrespective of caste or creed, is an equal partner in the destiny of the nation. Around 55,000 workers and members from across the country gathered for this plenary. It is now part of a lore that some parties, especially the Congress, would like to forget. That the inaugural of the plenary was attended by none other than Muhammad Karim. Okay, interesting. Inaugural party was attended by none other than Muhammad Karim Chagla, veteran congressman, legendary jurist for some time, education minister in Nehru's cabinet, and later a foreign minister in Indira's cabinet. Interesting. So a Congress veteran, a jurist, and a minister in Nehru's cabinet was there. Hmm. Chagla energetically opposed in his mid 70s when emergency was declared. Chagla energetically opposed it and later welcomed the formation of the BJP as a national alternative to Congress, which he felt had increasingly become party of hypocrites, opportunists, and psychopaths. Okay, Chagla delivered a 40-minute speech much that was that was as much a benediction as was it an exorbitation exorbitation and the climax of the convention. Later in January 1981, Chagla wrote his impressions of the meet. It was a glimpse of hope which was beginning to show itself through the extraordinary strength which this new party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, has shown. And it is this party goes on from strength to strength, receives the support of people from all over the country. We might at last have a democratic alternative to Indira's government. Former Chief Justice of India, J.C. Shah, who had headed the Shah Commission of Inquiry against the excesses committed during the emergency, also attended the Samata Nagar session in the solidarity with Chagla and with the aspiration for a democratic alternative to the Indira regime. The response to BJP's convention showed that people still looked for a democratic alternative to the Congress despite Indira's victory in 1980 general elections. The main thrust of Vajpayee's presidential address was the need to oppose authoritarianism and support parliamentary democracy. So, authoritarianism and support to parliamentary democracy was one of the four planks. Interestingly, the convention was one. Interestingly, the convention was, as one observer put it, relatively free from any obsession with Mrs. Gandhi and what she might or might not do. The kind of obsession that had been oppressively present at practically all conferences of opposition parties in recent years. Interesting. The BJP convention was unlike them, no gathering of frightened men. There was, there was, on the contrary, a quiet but palpable self-confidence. This seemed significant. It certainly made for constructive deliberation. In the words of Chagla, the Samata Nagar session was Bombay's answer to Indira. Vajpayee was accepted as a credible leader who could symbolize the hopes and aspirations of the people and was backed by a cohesive organization which had broken through its limiting shell. The Janasangh was a cadre-based party, while the BJP had clearly begun moving towards becoming a mass party. Between them, Vajpayee and Advani were seen as perfect complement to each other. The rallying cry for the new party was Sangathan Shanghars Samrachana, organization, struggle, and constructive work. The new party was different in that it spoke of the need to engage in constructive work apart from putting in place an organization and launching a struggle for political space. In his presidential address, Vajpayee dwelt at length on the state of the country and on the razor day of the new party. He saw various levels of degeneration and multidimensional crises affecting the country. Mounting inflation, deteriorating law and order situation, scarcity of essential commodities, in, increase in number of intensity, increase in the number and intensity of communal incidents, oppression of Harijans, tribals, women, and other weaker sections, and the explosive situation in the Northeast were some of the dimensions of this crisis. Vajpayee spoke of the prevailing moral crisis, degeneration of public life, double standards. The overall mood of the nation was despondent. The press was being gagged, a distorted secularism was being practiced, and there was increasing administrative paralysis. Speaking of the need to restore moral values, he also spoke of why BJP aspired to be party with a difference. We can organize the people, organize the people only if we are able to establish stability in their minds. The people must be convinced that this is a party different from crowd of self-seekers who swamp the political stage. That its aim is not somehow to sneak into office and that its politics are based on certain values and principles. The question was, as Vajpayee asked, will India be able to face the present challenges successfully, or on the basis of its value system or be able to build a new future for itself. The country was at crossroads. On one side or okay, loomed the threat of authoritarianism, and on the other was danger of anarchy. For the BJP, the need was defending democracy, carrying forward a relentless struggle for social justice, democracy, and for changing the status quo. Vajpayee cautioned. There is an excerpt. There is no place in the BJP for people madly in pursuit of post, position, and wealth. Those who lack courage or self respect may go and prostrate themselves at the Delhi Darbar. So far as we are concerned, we are determined to wage a relentless struggle against dangers of authoritarianism and anarchy. So both are represented by Indira Gandhi and emergency. Emergency as a representation of authoritarian tendencies, and anarchy as excesses committed by Indira Gandhi's people during that part. With the Constitution of India in one hand and the banner of equality in the other, let us get set for the struggle. Let us take inspiration from the life and struggle of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Let Mahatma Phule be our guide in our crusade of social justice. Vajpayee ended his presidential address with his famously prescient prediction that the lotus shall bloom. It was a prediction that kept reverberating over the years, galvanizing and sustaining the struggling cadres. Standing on the shores of this ocean beneath the Western Ghats, I can say this with confidence about the future. Darkness will be dispelled, the sun will rise, and the lotus shall bloom. This is the last chapter we're going to read today before we are ending, but it's a very long chapter. Okay, so we're going to continue reading this tomorrow, maybe in the afternoon. So we will read this part, Lotus Shall Bloom, in tomorrow's session, and let's see. So thank you everyone for listening. And do we have any questions? We don't see any questions coming up. So thank you. Do support the channel if you can. Subscribe to the channel and also share if you want to help people know about these books and book reading sessions. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Ram. Vande Mataram.